Beast is a gripping survival thriller that revolves around a father, Dr. Nate Samuels, who takes his two daughters, Meredith and Nora, to a wildlife reserve in South Africa in an attempt to reconnect and heal after the tragic death of their mother. What initially seems like a peaceful getaway quickly transforms into a fight for survival when the family is stalked by a ruthless and dangerous rogue lion. The movie begins with Dr. Nate Samuels, a widowed father who is struggling to cope with the loss of his wife and the emotional toll it has taken on his family. Nate, a doctor by profession, feels immense guilt over not being able to prevent the tragic accident that led to his wife's death. This sense of guilt has affected his relationship with his daughters. Meredith, the older daughter, harbors resentment toward her father for not being there for her emotionally during this difficult time. She feels abandoned and isolated, believing that he hasn't been able to support her the way a father should. Nora, the younger daughter, is more afraid and has a much more dependent relationship with Nate, but her fear of the situation grows as the story progresses. To try and heal the emotional rift between them, Nate decides to take his daughters on a trip to a game reserve in South Africa. This place holds sentimental value for the family, as Nate and his late wife had visited it years before, during a much happier time. The hope is that returning to a place filled with fond memories will help the family start the healing process. Upon arriving at the game reserve, the family is greeted by Martin Battles, a former poacher who now works to protect wildlife. Martin is a longtime friend of Nate's late wife, and he offers to guide them on a tour of the reserve. The reserve is vast, with diverse wildlife roaming freely in their natural habitat. From giraffes to zebras, the family marvels at the beauty of nature. Martin explains how the reserve is committed to wildlife conservation, particularly after the poaching crisis in the area. However, he also mentions that there is a rogue lion on the loose, a former member of a pride that was killed by poachers. This lion has become an aggressive and unpredictable predator, killing not just animals, but humans as well. The warning seems like an afterthought, as Martin assures them that they are safe, but this proves to be a false sense of security. As the family ventures further into the reserve, they begin to realize that danger is closer than they think. The rogue lion, once driven by hunger and pain, has become a relentless killer. It's no longer afraid of humans. It seeks vengeance for the loss of its pride. The lion's presence soon becomes undeniable, and the family starts to feel the tension building in the air. One afternoon, while traveling through the reserve in their vehicle, the Samuels family has a terrifying encounter with the lion. The animal, hidden in the tall grass, launches a surprise attack on their vehicle, forcing the family to abandon it and flee. The chase quickly becomes chaotic, with the lion closing in on them. The family is separated, and they are forced to run on foot in a desperate attempt to escape. The once peaceful reserve turns into a dangerous wilderness where they are vulnerable to the lion's every move. The lion's attack is not random. It is deliberate and calculated. It stalks them with intelligence, as if it's a predator toying with its prey. The tension rises as the Samuels family realizes that they are no longer in control of the situation. Nate, determined to protect his daughters, tries to keep them calm and focused on survival, but his medical knowledge is no match for the cunning of a wild predator. The family is thrust into a struggle that forces them to rely on each other in ways they never imagined. They are far from help, with no immediate means of communication or transportation, and the lion is relentless. As they journey deeper into the reserve, the family's emotional struggles begin to surface. Nate's guilt over the death of his wife becomes more pronounced. He realizes that, While he has been trying to protect his family physically, he has failed them emotionally. His relationship with Meredith is especially strained, as she resents him for not being there for her after her mother's death. Meredith's anger and her emotional wounds add to the tension between them. At the same time, Nora, although more fearful and dependent on her father, starts to show moments of surprising bravery. She tries to help her father and sister, even as fear grips her. In a brutal and tense sequence, Nate faces the lion in a direct battle for survival. The lion attacks with ferocity, and Nate is forced to use everything at his disposal to outsmart it. In a terrifying moment, Nate is wounded, and it becomes unclear whether he will be able to defeat the lion. Meanwhile, Meredith and Nora, although frightened, summon their own courage to help their father. Meredith, who has been angry at Nate for so long, now sees him not just as a father, but as a protector who is willing to risk everything for their safety. Nora, the younger daughter, shows surprising strength as she tries to help her father in his struggle. The battle between Nate and the lion pushes both him and his daughters to their limits. Nate's fight with the lion is symbolic of his own emotional battle. He must overcome his guilt and fear in order to protect his family. In the end, Nate manages to kill the lion, ending the immediate danger. However, the victory comes at a cost. Nate is injured, and the family is physically and emotionally drained by the ordeal. The relationship between Nate and his daughters has improved. Meredith, who had been angry and distant, now understands the struggles her father has gone through. She begins to let go of her anger and starts to rebuild her relationship with him. Nora, who had been afraid and uncertain, also grows in her own way, showing strength and resilience that she didn't know she had.